All right, adapting in a digital world. That's the theme of this year's Slack customer conference called Slack Frontiers. Here to discuss the event and what the company is up to is Slack co-founder and CEO Stewart Butterfield. Stewart, always good to see you, especially now in that nice scenic backdrop. I was reading a piece on our sister publication, TechCrunch, and you guys are now, I believe, testing an Instagram-like stories feature for Slack. What is that all about?
Well, the big thing it's about is something that we're experiencing as a company, but we're also hearing from customers, which is we need to find a way to take processes, events, things we're doing at work that today must be synchronous and make them asynchronous. So a perfect example of that is the daily stand-up meeting. Everyone has to stop what they're doing at 9 and until 9:15, go around the room, everyone gives an update. If instead of that, I could record my update at 8:53 and listen to yours at 10:17, gives me a lot more flexibility. And honestly, in meetings like that, people might have 3 minutes of the 15 minutes as actual participation. It also saves time. And if that's the case in the 15-minute meeting, in the 30-minute or the 60-minute, you could be saving half an hour. But I think the real key is flexibility. And the last thing I would say is, even for people who are honestly sick of seeing each other on the other end of these video calls all day, seeing someone's face and hearing their voice in a different context without the expectation that you're also on camera is a very different feeling. And despite the fact that everyone's sick of the calls, people are also reporting feeling lonely and lack of connection, and this really helps.
Yeah, I think you're really honing in on something there, Stewart. But we got to talk about what happened on Monday. Slack sort of blew up on Twitter, people taking to the platform to complain about slow service. There were challenges with logging in. You did experience an outage. You were able to fix the problem. Do you understand what happened there? And can you guarantee it's not going to happen again?
Yeah, well, obviously it is a risk of life, and it's a good indication of the importance. And personally, as a user, I understand the frustration. We are building a lot more resilience. And if you look back over the last 6 months, despite the dramatic increase in usage, 3 of those months have 100% uptime, and the whole period is 99.9.
Stewart, what's the next iteration of Slack? So you're working on Slack Connect. You have this new video feature. Just looking at the event this week, to me, it looks like you are now positioning Slack for the return to work era.
Yeah, I think there's 3 main streams. So we talked about the stories. There's another aspect of that, which is experiments you're doing with always on audio. So rather than a call that starts and stops, the ability to kind of recreate the spontaneity and serendipity of office conversations where you can just talk to someone. So that's one. The second one is Slack Connect. So we announced the ability outside of the context of shared channels for 2 Slack users at other organizations to be able to direct message each other. And we'll get back into that, but it's very interesting. And then the third one is a bunch of new features around the platform, specifically for enterprise security and application management, but also to take our workflow builder, which is something that non-technical users can use, and integrate that with steps from other outside applications. So for example, if you build a workflow that collects data into a form, you can use the Google Sheets step to add that into a Google Sheet.
Stewart, how are you tackling the issue of verification? When somebody has your email address, they can spam you, they can send you all unwanted stuff, you can send your stuff to people who you didn't mean to send it to. What are you doing in terms of verifying that the person I'm sending a message to on Slack is the person I intend to get that message?
So that's a great question. And I think one of the really interesting things here is that this is a step forward, Slack Connect broadly, for collaboration communication. Obviously, we believe channels are a better way, and Slack is the tool that people have open. But it's also a big step forward in security and compliance because we can verify the organization. So a lot like the blue check mark you see on Twitter or Instagram. But there's also additional layers of security. So I don't know if you remember how BlackBerry Messenger worked, but you give someone your PIN and then they can send you a message and then you approve them. It's a lot like that. So this isn't just anyone can send you a message. Now, if you're a salesperson and you want people to be able to reach you on Slack, you could put it on your LinkedIn. You could put a QR code on your business card or something like that. And of course, you can also revoke those after. But we don't expect that that's how most people use it. This isn't going to be for sales pitches or spam. This is for people at 2 organizations that work closely together. So think about the marketing manager and the creative from the agency or the in-house counsel talking to their outside lawyer, those kinds of cases.
Stewart, I'm sure you've seen big tech players. They have come under attack by Congress this week. And now, in many respects, they may be broken up at some point. Really, it's wildly unclear. You have been a vocal critic of how Microsoft is competing in the market against you. Should Microsoft be included in the discussion to be broken up? Certainly went through that already, but they were left out of the discussion that we've seen this week. Lots of focus on Apple, Google, and Facebook, and even Amazon.
Well, I mean, obviously, we think that their activity should be looked at. Whether they should be broken up, I think, is a different question. And different jurisdictions have different approaches to this kind of issue. I think for us, it's very clear, at least according to the EU regulations, that they're behaving in an illegal, anti-competitive way. And the investigation is ongoing, so we don't know the results yet, but we're pretty confident that the European Commission will find in our favor in that case. As for the rest of it, it's there can be unintended consequences, and it's not obvious what the best path forward is. So I guess as a citizen and also as a leader in technology, I hope that we carefully weigh all the consequences.
Stewart, the great countdown has begun. We're 26 days away from the election. How closely, as a CEO, are you watching the election, especially when it comes to taxes? I mean, there will be implications for whoever wins the White House.
Yeah, I think that the bigger implications are probably going to come from the current economic environment and the pandemic. I think changes in policy are going to be relatively small, I guess, on top of that in terms of their impact. Obviously, watching it and really, I mean, zero ability to predict the outcome, but also zero ability to predict the effect of that outcome. We're in such an unusual territory in such an unusual circumstance that it's hard to know even how to plan to mitigate, to come up with contingencies.
Stewart, are you seeing any stabilization finally at long last, not just for you, for the country at large, in your small business customers?
Yeah, we are seeing some. So, definitely Q2 was the brunt of the impact. And we have 130,000 customers around the world. So, some of those are giant companies. Verizon is one of them. Companies like Amazon and IBM, T-Mobile, great success in financial services lately, HSBC and Northwestern Mutual. But if there's 130,000 of them, obviously many of them are small businesses. And some of them are restaurants or small boutique hotel chains or tax preparers or dental offices. The impact seems to have been blunted. It's a little bit tough to know what's going to happen in the U.S. when there's no stimulus package. But what we saw in terms of growth that didn't happen, so like the expected expansion, starting to return a little bit more to normal. The number of layoffs, the number of bankruptcies, as far as we can tell from our data, it's definitely starting to calm down.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.